Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Partner Workshop. We're going to give this just a few minutes to allow more people to log in, get on board. We're still, having a couple people dragging in, so we'll wait a couple more minutes. Just stand by, be patient. We'll start in about 2 minutes. All right, welcome to those who are signing in. We're just going to give it a few more minutes to allow people a little more time to join us today. All right. So for those who are still joining, I think we're gonna have a couple people coming in, but I want to do a quick walkthrough of what this platform is and what you can expect. My name is Tori Beeler. I'm going to be your MC and moderator for today. Just walking you through the platform, making sure things are going really well. So a couple housekeeping, you should see the screen and our slides here. Obviously, currently we look much better than we did in our practice round, which you can tell.
You and I, at least. Stuff is always looking good.
Stuff is fabulous. But just to remind everyone, this is a workshop, it's not a lecture. So we're going to make sure that you guys are fully, interacting with the platform. And this is our second one today, so we're already well versed in this topic. So
warmed up, yeah,
warmed up, ready to go. As you guys know, you're already muted, so none of you guys are going to be able to speak to us, but we do have a questions tab or a questions box for you guys to type in any comments, questions that you may have. We will see all of them. We're going to be monitoring them. So one thing I want you guys to do really quick, just so that we know you can hear us and that you can see our beautiful faces, just type in there saying, hello, how are you? One thing we like to do is see where you guys are from. I'm in Colorado Springs, Colorado today, and it's nice and sunny. It's beautiful outside. Just let me know where you guys are. You can hear us okay. We love that interaction. I'll give you guys a couple more minutes. We got a lot of people still signing in. So that'll be our main method of communication for sure, just so that you guys know that's where you go if you want to raise a hand or have an urgent question. We're monitoring it the entire time. Got some people from New Jersey. I saw some Portland in there. Hola. Nice to see you. Looks like we got a lot of good people on today. That's wonderful. So next thing we're going to do is our polls. So directly above your questions, or actually I'm going to launch one now. When we launch a poll, you're going to see it like this on your screen. And this is going to be the first one we're taking today. And it's simply, does your company advise clients on release management strategies? Is this the best practice? Do you guys have some tips and tricks you recommend? Maybe not fully up to speed. There's no wrong answer here. But throughout the entire time that we're taking this workshop, you're going to be doing quizzes and interacting with the platform. So we'll launch these throughout. So this is just so that you guys know. So I'll go ahead and close that out and share. So we'll share all of the results so that you can see what's going on. You're in a good place. If you're wanting good release management tips and tricks, this is where you're going to learn them, things like that. We want to make sure that you guys know who we are as well. So Steph, if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide.
No.
Well, that's agenda. We'll go over that later. So just so you know who we are, my name is Tori Beeler. Again, I'm going to be your MC. I'm Director of Events for Prodly. So you may have heard my voice before in a webinar or seen me in person at an event local to you. So that's my role here with the company. Susie, you want to go next?
Yeah, hi, I'm Susie Wallingford. I'm the Director of Alliances here at Prodly. So consulting partners in Salesforce are my big people that I care about. So thank you so much for making the time to be here.
And I'm Dave Stuffelbeam, and I do go by Stuff because there's way too many Daves in the company. So she's not making fun of me or anything, so don't be offended. I'm based in Salt Lake City, or south of Salt Lake City, Utah, where we have the virus, earthquakes, and snow today. So it's great. Well, no earthquakes today, earthquakes last week. Director of Solutions here, so I manage everything from our out-of-the-box toolkits that most of you use for things like Salesforce CPQ and advanced approvals, field service lightning, and so on. Plus, I handle all of our partner trainings and onboarding kind of things, as well as all of the pre-sales technical support from a sales engineering standpoint.
Yeah, he's a busy guy.
Busy. So one thing we want to do is just get to know you guys, also bring, some humor into your life today. So what's helping you stay sane during this practice of social distancing? A lot of people are maintaining just normal routines. Are you hanging out with your pets, children, and partners? I've had a lot of people say staying sane. So I think some people are maybe not doing so well in the quarantine. But it seems like we've got a good bunch. A lot of people are not staying sane. Oh, that's funny. Okay. Wonderful. Thank you guys for taking these. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and close this out and share. So clearly
That's
we have either very normal or very, very like, we wanted to also share our responses to that, and we're just answering them personally. So for me, what I'm doing right now is my favorite thing in the world is taking a blanket and just wrapping really tight, and I call it burritoing. So I have my wine, I talk to my cat, and I burrito in a blanket.
It says cocooning on the slide.
Cocooning into a human burrito.
Okay.
Yeah, so we've been trying to cook a lot. Definitely have had a hard time staying sane sometimes. Spending a lot of time with my cats. You can see one back here napping. So he's busy shedding hair all over our guest room.
It's our supervisor.
Yes.
And obviously I have a little bit more adventure than Susie and Tori. We have a huge front porch that's about 30, 40 feet long, and we built a porch swing a couple of years ago, so we sit outside and watch the clouds and the mountains and everything, and then binge watching movies, playing video games. I like to build remote control airplanes and everything. In fact, you can see on this one right here, there it is. There are a couple of drones in the background. There's an airplane I made right there. Do a lot of 3D printing, so I have these little gadgets, but we print really cool things that are actually useful instead of just gadgets. So, and both Susie and Tori are cat people, and I'm happily a dog owner. So.
We don't judge you, Stuff.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, we like dogs too. Perfect. So I think next up we've got some setup tips, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. So I am going to go ahead and paste this in the chat. Everybody should see this. Go ahead and go to this page. A lot of you were sent, or everybody should have been sent an email, a reminder email to go in and set up a Scratch org and different things like that. That email, unfortunately, had some missing letters and dashes on the Scratch org link. So if you were not able to spin up a Scratch org, that's what you want to do now. So if you go to this web page in the workshop instructions, you'll see it says use this link to spin up a new Scratch org. With that, you're going to get a web page that looks like this. This is a Scratch org that Salesforce put together for us for the purpose of this workshop. It will have Salesforce CPQ installed, and you'll have a user that is a system administrator. Prodly AppOps is not installed in this, again, because this is an org that Salesforce created for us to use. AppOps will be in the training org, which we'll access here in just a little bit. And everybody should have received, yesterday afternoon, around 6, 7 o'clock Mountain Time, should have received a password reset request. I think Greg, I think if you're on, I just created your account just a few minutes before the webinar started. So hopefully you got that, create your, or, verify your username. So go ahead and click that link, and there's gonna be a blue bar across the top while it's spinning up. Some of you, it may insta-pop and be ready. Others, it may take 5 minutes for you to get this, and others, it may take 10 minutes. It's okay to give it a refresh and see. When it's done, you'll see a green bar here. Most importantly, we are going to need this username and this password here shortly. We're going to create a connection to this org. You are going to log into this org and disable triggers and different things like that. So don't lose this page. Don't close it. If you accidentally close it out, just go ahead and spin it up. This is going to be available. It's going to be available for 30 days. So feel free to play around with it. It's fully functional org with CPQ, all that fun stuff. I forgot other things that I was going to talk about on that page. With that page as well, here we go. What we want you to do is download this zip file. This zip file is going to contain a single JSON file in it. We're going to import this as part of the hands-on workshop today. This will contain an SBQQ price rule dataset.json file. No need to open the file, just download the zip, extract it. If you're on a Mac, I think if you double click it, it'll extract. If you're on a Windows, right mouse click and say extract all, and there'll be a single file. Behave when you save. So what that means is pay attention to where you're saving it, because we're going to be going through pretty fast, so you don't want to hunt for this. I'm going to talk about our deployment guide that has all of our pre-deployment steps and everything. So this is where you're going to want to download this and have this as a reference on your desktop. Pages 5, 6, and 7 are all you need to worry about on this. But we'll cover pages 5, 6, and 7 as part of that. And then if you would like to download an older version of the slides, all the content is relatively the same. It's just we've updated because we've rebranded and everything. This has the old branding and everything, but all of the steps and everything are pretty much the same. So if you wanted to review this and kind of play around and reference it back, you can grab the slides there. And let me get rid of that and go back here. And then I think I literally did talk about everything already on this. Okay, so yeah, just make sure you're noting that username and password here. All right, so I'm going to throw the ball to Susie for the next couple of minutes, and she's going to talk about kind of who we are and our platform and all the kind of fun stuff.
Perfect. So Jennifer, I just saw your question. The JSON file is in that link that Steph posted. It'll be the second paragraph, the second link there. If you still can't find it, let us know. Yeah, the AppOps release template for workshop. Perfect. So it looks like most of you are existing partners with us. So first and foremost, thank you. But for those of you who may not have gotten a company update from Prodly recently, I wanted to share a little bit more about kind of who we are and how we've evolved. We've been around since about 2015, but over the last year or so, we've really grown quite a bit, not just in employee count and numbers, but also in features, functionality, and new product. So we've really moved beyond what our previous product was called Mover and into kind of building out this concept that in order to enable digital transformation, we need to help our partners and our customers be more agile. I feel like there's, the running joke that everybody needs to have digital transformation on a slide in this ecosystem because it's such a, mega trend. But where we are really, really focusing is on admins and how admins getting their jobs done efficiently and correctly really enables you to adhere to agile best practices. 2-week sprints, can oftentimes not be enough time in the day to get everything you need to get done. And so, we're here to help with that. SaaS has really evolved. We all know the early days of vanilla SaaS. It was when Salesforce was first coming out. Everything was easy to deploy. A lot of consulting partners, were very small or hadn't, kind of matured into bigger companies yet. But the problem there wasn't a lot of customization. And as customers demanded the ability to customize their SaaS applications, we went full bore into code. So at that point, you really needed developers and architects and these very skilled folks to be able to actually make your SaaS application and investment work for what your company wanted to do. So this really quickly got bloated. It got expensive. I mean, we've had presentations, like one of the founders of Big Machines, one of the former leaders of Big Machines, talk to us and say, yeah, when we were making a sale of the Big Machines product at the beginning, we would have a 2-day on-site consultation just to architect out how we wanted the product to work. That's after they've signed. Obviously, there are only so many hours in the day, and customers want to move quickly. And so we saw with SteelBrick and with other kind of different applications that we really moved into this highly configurable SaaS. So we all hear the buzzwords, clicks, not code, low code, no code apps. Those are things like Salesforce CPQ, Field Service Lightning, and other managed packages that are super powerful, and you can do a lot with them, but we don't necessarily have in the ecosystem a comprehensive toolkit that helps admins actually not just stand up and implement these tools, but then maintain them and actually see a return on the investment the clients are making. Perfect. And I mentioned these as examples of some of these low-code apps. Today, we're going to talk specifically about CPQ. However, there are plenty of other low-code applications on the Salesforce platform that Prodly's AppOps release works with perfectly. So we have billing, we have advanced approvals, we've got B2B commerce, Field Service Lightning. We also have clients using us for industry clouds. So the possibilities for use cases here are endless, which we love enabling partners on that so that you can really, once you get to know the tool, really get to use it a lot. And one of the things that was referenced in one of the earlier slides, so we all know metadata. We're comfortable with metadata. We're comfortable with DevOps. But with the advent of all of these like low-code applications, we've got a new type of data in reference data. So this data is stored are stored as data, not as metadata. And it's important that we apply rigor and really good release management and data management practices in order to keep our clients secure. So not saving CSV files on desktops, but also allow them, again, to be more agile by being able to manipulate, modify, and update this data. And you guys all know the problems here. We don't need to, tell you, preach to the choir about how maintaining these applications for clients can be really hard. Whether you're doing that on a managed services project that your company provides a client, or if you're doing this more for standing up, go live, and then hand off after implementation, maintaining these apps can be really hard. And we know that you want to enable your clients when you're doing a handoff to be confident in their ability to actually maintain their applications and get the most of their investment. So we're really here to help you be an expert on what our tool does so that you can show your clients how powerful this is. And when they go from having 15 people on a project to 3 full-time admins, they aren't completely overwhelmed and swamped and reverting to, maybe not compliant type practices. And finally, we're really proud of this. Like I said, we're going to be talking about CPQ today, but our value that we're really proud to provide you is that time savings, that ability to kind of not necessarily have to encounter the bottleneck that can be IT at your clients' offices, and again, help clients be able to make changes quickly and accurately. By automating things, we reduce errors and we save a ton of time. So you can focus your valuable hours on more important work. And so this is our full product umbrella and lifecycle that we're in the process of building out now. What you're learning about today is AppOps release. So the bottom right quadrant of this circle, I guess, I don't know if circles have quadrants, but anyway, AppOps release is formerly Mover. So you may have heard our tool called that. We rebranded because we've added on so many additional features. And so now we're AppOps release. Next April, well, no, this April, so like in about a month. What day is it anymore? Who knows? In about a month, we're going to be releasing AppOps Test, which is the only tool on the market that's going to allow you and your clients to do regression testing and unit testing within CPQ. So we're very excited about that. And then later in the year, we're going to be bringing to market AppOps Build, which is the bundle builder, as well as analytics tools. So we're really excited to have you all as partners coming on this journey with us. We're going to get you really comfortable with AppOps release today, as well as leave you with some hopefully powerful takeaways and how you can use this on client projects and how you can let this kind of shape how you talk about release management best practices.
Awesome. Thank you, Susie. All right.
Yeah, thank you.
I think for the rest of the webinar, we're going to go off camera simply because I'm going to be doing a lot of screen shares and back and forth, and we want to make the content as big as possible. So we'll turn them back on at the end. I know you're going to miss all of this. I'm just kidding. But yeah, we'll go ahead and go off camera for the rest of the hands-on workshop here. And let's move forward here. So kind of to talk a little bit more on the technical side of what Susie was saying, like the benefits of AppOps release for low code, no code application. It definitely speeds up. Oh, Tori was saying we have another poll, and that's right, we do have another poll, and this is actually really important because I think this is the one where we're asking about what low code are you working with the most? So Tori, go ahead and talk about this one.
Yeah, so I mean, that is exactly what the poll already is. It's out and about, and so what we want to know is what low code application you're actually using, or if you're using multiple. In this one, we're only doing a single one, so I would say choose whatever you're working with the most. We see a lot of CPQ since that's kind of where we got our start too, but also a lot of industry cloud, B2B commerce, field service lightning, whatever you're working with. Looks like most people have already taken it, so I'm going to go ahead and close it out. So as you can see, we've got a huge CPQ audience today, which is great because you're working with CPQ data here today. So that's all we needed to know, and I'll let you go on.
Cool. Thank you so much. And you closed out the poll, so my screen's showing again. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay, because I when I'm sharing, I can't see the polls or anything. I miss out on all the fun. So
no, Steph, you're good to go. You're good to go.
Great. Thanks for that, because where 93% of us are CPQ focused, that's going to make this workshop a lot easier because we will be using the CPQ as an example for all of the hands-on portion of this. But however, keep in mind, we support Salesforce as a whole platform. Like, we're not just about the CPQ or advanced approvals or field service lightning or B2B or anything else like that. We can pick up any record data, accounts, contacts, contracts, subscriptions, opportunities, quote lines, whatever you want, custom objects, and deploy that highly relational record data from org to org while keeping it relational as it gets to the destination. We have a lot of different use cases, seeding sandboxes, org merges, legacy data transformations, different things. So, if you're ever using Data Loader to transfer data between orgs or even transform data between orgs, we're the tool that can solve all of that and speed up that whole all of the implementation steps of that. And like I was saying, we automatically remap all of the record IDs. One of the things, if you've ever done this by hand, you'll know that it is a huge challenge, this data remapping challenge, where you export out records from one org, you import them, then you have to export out the new record IDs, and then you have to do VLOOKUPs and remap parent-child relationships. All of that's gone. All of that is in the past. and automatically supported inside of AppOps release. Also, we pick the order of operations for you. So there's no need to hunt and figure out what is the most parent object that you're deploying so that you get that base line of data there prior to the child objects coming so you can remap everything correctly. We take care of all of that for you as well. Plus you have the ability to filter a data set. So any valid SOCL where clause, you have the ability to use SOCL and even the keywords like last modified by or last modified date and different things that are, you know, synonymous with SOCL. You can use that inside of our tool to bring over a subset of data. So you're not deploying, you know, everything. If you're in update mode, or maybe you've done most of the implementation, you're just going in and fixing things, you can deploy just the fixes that you need to do as well. So it prevents duplicates in your destination orgs as well. We're always configured to do an upsert, and an upsert just means that we're doing an insert and an update in real time. So we have the ability to track the movement of the records and know where they're coming from and where they're going to, and be able to avoid creating duplicates on multiple inserts on the same record. So we're gonna talk about that in more detail here. So Nick, let's we'll get to that here in just a second. Here we'll have a moment where we can resolve those kind of issues. Let me get through this and we'll get to your password issue there. Sorry, I'm recovering from a cold that's really trying to turn into bronchitis. I think it already has. I don't have the coop, just a cold. So I apologize if I'm getting raspy. Plus, I've been on talking since pretty much 7 o'clock this morning my time. So my voice is probably going to go not hopefully before the end. So the idea behind this is, as Susie was saying before, it just makes this whole process scalable, reliable, and repeatable to where, you know, at the end of the sprint, you know, on Friday, 2 weeks from now, you're done. You can push those from dev to QA and do your testing, from QA to UAT and do your training, and then from UAT to production for your go live. This isn't just about implementation though. This is also about allowing your clients to use the same tool you do to maintain the CPQ application or the implementation of whatever it is that you're implementing. Use the same tool, the same data sets, because again, you all are highly trained, skilled, and you know probably how to do this by hand, let alone using a tool like AppOps release. But your clients typically don't have these kind of resources. That's why they're hiring your expertise. So by introducing your clients to AppOps release, they can maintain their own sprint cycles, their own release management, and maintain, for example, like in Salesforce CPQ, maintain their product catalog with ease, instead of having to, you know, hire on a data architect level person to do this. They can hand this off to a junior Salesforce administrator. So most of you answered that you are, you know, you're providing best practices, services, and you know, for your clients, you want to teach them about best practices and being able to dev in a dev, test in a QA, train in a UAT, and you know, use production for production purposes, right? It's going to help maximize their ROI. And again, it copies across all objects, custom, standard, managed package, even custom settings. Okay, so a typical architecture, whether you are using AppOps release in your own, SI or consulting partner configuration where you have this installed in your production org, if you've introduced AppOps to your client, this is the same kind of configuration. They'll install this in their production org. Either way, what happens is, you know, there's two parts of our application. There is the managed package that gets installed in, you know, typically a production org, whether it's yours or theirs, doesn't matter. There is the AppOps cloud. The AppOps cloud, or the Prodly cloud, is the piece that does all of the data movement from org to org. So if you have AppOps licensed to use on your client projects, then what will happen is you will use your production instance of AppOps and create connections to your client source QA, you know, the dev, QA, UAT, and production. You'll create connections to all of that, and then you'll be able to initiate data set deployments that will be ran by our cloud. So you can pick data up from their dev, push it through our cloud, and directly to their QA or to whatever is the next step in your agile development process. And this is what Susie was talking about. No more downloading, unencrypted, unembedded, CSV files to your desktop, and then pushing them back up and having that kind of that security risk. We can push this across and keep everything secure and go direct. Nothing is ever written to disk or is at rest in our cloud. We don't limit the number of connections that can be made, so you can work with as many clients as you want and connect to all of their orgs, and so on. So it's pretty simple to use this. In the slides, and this is also in the slides on the website, is a lot of terminology and kind of vocabulary words that we use. One of them that I'm going to talk a lot about today, I'm going to mention, is a control org. The control org is where AppOps release is installed, simply put. Okay, it is this org where it's your production org where AppOps is installed. We consider that your control org. You have your source org, your destination org, your schema org. Your schema org is a setting for the data set editor. So what that means is if I'm in my control org and I open up a data set, by default, the data set will see the objects of the org I'm installed in. But you as a consulting partner might be doing CPQ implementations, but you might not be using CPQ to sell it, right? So you will not have the CPQ schema inside your control org. So if you open up a schema or open up a CPQ data set, it actually errors out. So what happens is with a schema setting, this allows me to say, okay, data set, Mr. Data Set, don't look at this org for the schema, go look at any one of my connections and look at that for the schema. Typically, you're setting your schema org to your client's source org, okay? Because that source org will always have the latest schema and up-to-date schema. Another couple of terminology is the Upsert method capability. Again, Upsert's just the ability to detect existing records, update them if they exist, and insert them if they don't. We support formal external IDs. Most of you are probably familiar with formal external IDs. They're hard, time-consuming to set up and maintain, so not everybody wants to use them. You might be forced to using them depending on if your client has a third-party ERP system or something like that that's integrating them that needs to have formal external IDs, and you might be forced into that. We support it all day. It's a great format to do it if you've got it and if you've taken the time and effort to set it up. Most people, again, don't want to live in that space, so they look for other alternatives. We have two other alternatives to formal external IDs, and that is composite external IDs and virtual external IDs. Composite external IDs give you the capability of using a combination of fields that we put together and concatenate them, creating a composite. And then as we pick up the records, we will look at the record IDs, we look at those fields. This is like the fourth time I've discussed this topic today, so I'm like, okay, what have I said already? We'll look at the fields. So for like product, we'll use like product code, product name, and is active. And as we picked up product A, product record A, we'll look at those three field values. Then we'll go ask the destination, do you have a product records that match product A's product name, product code, and is active? If the destination says, yeah, I have one, we update it. It says, no, I don't have any. We know it's not there, we insert it. If it says, yeah, I have 5 that look just like that, then that means either we have some duplicates or we actually need to add a couple of more fields to create a more unique composite external ID. On top of that is the more recommended way to do it is this is the virtual external ID where we recommend that you use, where we track all the record movement for you. As we pick up the record data from the source, we look at the source org ID and the record ID of where it's coming from, and we check a table, a database in our cloud to see if we've ever seen that record before. And if we've never seen it before, we know we're doing an automatic insert into the destination, and we'll do that insert and pick up the new record ID and the new org ID, and we'll correlate it with that where it came from. So you can move it back and forth without ever having to denote what fields are unique. This is super fast. It makes deployments so much easier and so much faster because you're not worrying about field values, that are consistent or staying the same as, the records are moving through the life cycle. All right, let's move forward. So the architecture for today's class is we're going to be logging into the training org here. You should have already got an account for that sometime yesterday evening around 6 p.m. Mountain Time. And it should have been a password reset request. And with that, this is where AppOps is going to be installed. CPQ is installed here. This is where we're going to put our data sets, create our connections. We're going to create a connection to that Scratch org, and then we're going to kick off a deployment from the training org into that Scratch org itself here. Okay, don't look for AppOps release installed in this Scratch org. It's not there. We're going to be working with it here. Okay, and again, just to kind of hit home here on the control org concept, again, it's where the app is installed. You're maintaining your connections. This is where you do your work. You never actually see the cloud side of the piece, but you'll get results of what the cloud is doing here, okay? All right, so let's go ahead. I'm gonna copy this URL. This is the URL for the Prodly training sandbox. This is a full copy sandbox. If you have not logged in, which I believe most of you have, let me look here. Yeah, I see a lot more people have logged in since the webinar has started, which is great. So go ahead, you should be using the username. It should be whatever you provided in your email address as your email prefix at prodly.training, and that is going to log you into our high-tech demo or our high-tech FSB sandbox. Okay, so.
Hey, Steph, we need one. So Kenneth is saying that he didn't receive his password yesterday. Can you just make sure that he has his training org up?
Yeah, I didn't want Kenneth to come, so no, I'm kidding. So that was harsh. I'm sorry. All right. Yeah, Kenneth, your account was created, so I'm going to hit reset password on that. So look for the password reset. Check spam trash for that. And then was there somebody else in that needed password help or something like that?
Yeah, Nick Peterson needs a reset.
Okay, Nick, I remember setting you up because your name was in there twice, so I had to be like, wait, what happened? Why is this guy in our training org twice? Okay, Nick, here you go. I'm doing a password reset for you as well. If you'll let us know, both Nick and that you guys got that.
It looks like, yeah, I think Ken needs the reset link.
Okay, yeah, and I've already sent that in the password reset email.
Okay. So Ken, let us know if you do not see that. I'll keep an eye on the panel.
Not getting any emails. Ken, can you put your valid email address in? I may have received it incorrectly. And just put it in the chat, and I'll just make sure it matches to what we have on hand here.
Yeah, we've been having a hard time with Ken's email for some reason.
There it is. I'm just going to update the account anyways, just in case there's just a minor typo and I miss it. Everybody just bear with us. This always happens every workshop where we have some challenges here. Okay, that looks right. So I'm saving that. So you might get a, validate your new account email address if it changed. And then I'm gonna send another password reset. Did you get an email on that? Thanks, Nick. Okay, let me know when you have clicked that so that I can update and reset the password. Okay, I'm gonna click reset password now because we have to move on. So let me know if you get the new password reset, Ken. And Susie, if you'll keep an eye, or Tori will keep an eye on that. Okay. All right, so now that you're in, if you're a Lightning person, that's great. You can be in Lightning. If you're a Classic person, get off my webinar. No, I'm kidding. Stay here because we work the same in Classic. It's all good. So use the application launcher, the waffle, the pancake, the hamburger, whatever you call this. Tic-tac-toe is what I call it. Use the application launcher and find Prodly AppOps. If you're in Lightning Classic, I did that this morning at 7 o'clock this morning. You're going to use the application launcher in the top right and find Prodly AppOps probably towards the bottom of that list. Okay. Go ahead and just take a look. This again, it's a standard managed package. It has a standard set of tabs. Feel free to just kind of click through and take a look. We're going to be working with the admin tab, folders, connections, dataset home if you're in Lightning, the dataset tab if you are in Classic, and then deployment plans we'll take a look at, and then deployment results is where we're going to play today. So if you ever get into a situation to where you need to create your own data set, because again, we only have so many out of the box toolkits, solutions, and different things. So everything else outside of that, you will need to create a data set for it. It's not that we don't support it, it's just that we just don't have an out of the box experience for it. So a lot of times you'll need to get in and create a custom data set for a custom lookup table so you can bring that across, because we don't know what your custom lookup table is, so we can't map that for you out of beforehand. So when you're in the data set editor, kind of just pay attention that it is a one window app, meaning avoid the back button and always click save. If you leave the data set editor after you've made a bunch of changes and you navigate away and then come back, all of your changes and everything that you've done will be gone. And I've had that happen to me a number of times. And it's just heartbreaking when that happens, especially if you've been working for 15, 20 minutes. So after every kind of major thing that you've done, just get in the habit of going up and hitting save here. There is a question on the chat here.
Are you talking about Thomas's question about VEIDs?
Yeah, I'm going to get into a little bit more about VEID here in just a minute, Thomas. You've asked a pretty lengthy question, and to keep pace, I don't have time to read that. So keep questions, if everybody can keep questions down to 1 to 2 short sentences, that'll be helpful. But
yeah, and if we don't get to the question, I've copy pasted it, and we can always follow up with you directly.
And we'll have time to review it at the end, hopefully. Okay, yeah. So now that
I'll make sure we.
Yeah, it's not that we don't love you. It's just, dude, that's a big question. Okay, so let's get into the first hands-on concept here and start getting working. So folders are great. In fact, this was requested by one of our larger SI partners that they do tons of implementations a year on CPQ and other platforms, and they were basically getting lost because every time you're working with a client, you're going to import a new set of templates. So you're starting a brand new CPQ implementation. You're going to go grab the templates from our website, import them, rename them, for your client, and you're going to have a set of new 17 data sets sitting there. You're going to have 17 data sets for CPQ for every single client. You do 100 implementations a year, you're going to have 1,700 data sets staring you at the face in the data set tab. It gets out of control really fast. And that's just one view. If you actually get into the data set tab and look at all, you're going to have thousands of little records looking at you, and it's unmanageable. And I'll show you what I mean by that in just a minute. So folders give you the capability to create a folder based on a project, or by a client, or by client and then project, because you can have nested folders. And then you have the ability to flag data sets to show up in there, as well as connections and any deployment plans you might be working on it. And that's going to keep you out of the dataset home tab or the dataset tab, where views, especially for SI partners, can get out of control really fast. But it's pretty easy to find, your folder out of, say, 50 or 60 folders, that you might be working on. Okay, so go ahead and click on the folders tab and click new. You're going to see a dialog box that looks just like this, and simply just put your first name, last initial on here, and that's all you have to do. You could put a description in there if you would like, yeah, let's go ahead and just do that. Here's the step-by-step if you want the detailed step-by-step. I am going to do this with you as well. I'm going to drag my look at that, we've already got a couple of folders here. So there was one here already, master CPQ dataset, and that's that contains all of our examples of the CPQ dataset. I'm just going to click new and just say, ooh, too many capital letters. Stuff's amazing folder. I've got to have an exclamation point. All right, there we go. So again, you can name this whatever, however you want to do. And once you've created your folder, it's going to take you inside of it. Now, your folder is a static view. I cannot tell anything to do here, what to do, how to do it. I can't even add a data set here as well. So data set connections in deployment plans, there are no actions that can be performed. I can create a nested folder. So if I was working on a project where I had CPQ billing and advanced approvals, I might want to create a folder for each of those and then assign the data sets accordingly, just to keep them segregated and be able to find them more in an orderly fashion. To get content to show up here, I have to go to that content and add it and flag a data set to be in this folder, or flag a connection. And we're going to do that as part of today's exercise. All right, let's see how everybody's doing. Look at that. We got quite a few already. 13, 2 already, 1 already exists plus mine, so 11 new ones. That's fantastic. All right, great job, everybody. Let's move on to the next step. Okay, connections. Connections, again, are essential. You have to have them to use the tool. They use OAuth, and it gives you the capability of using that connection both as a source and a destination for data. So you only need one connection for one org, and that one connection acts as both a source and a destination. I can flag a destination and mark it read only, so that it, I will never be able to write data to it, but I can read from it all day long. Your clients may be hesitant to make a connection into the production org before deployment, but you may need to read data from it to get some accounts and contacts and opportunities and quotes and different things, or just regular account data, so you can dev and create quotes in your dev environment. So you can make the production instance of the connection a read-only if you would like. Plus, again, it allows us to act as a schema and be able to see into that org and see its schema as well. All right, so creating a connection is super simple. You're basically going to name the connection whatever you want to name it. In our instance, we're going to name it your name scratch org. And then this is where you would flag it if you do not want to allow it as a destination. This is where you're going to flag it to show up in your folder. So make sure you type your folder name there, hit search and flag it there. And then you're going to choose whether it is a production or a sandbox as well. And since we're going to a scratch org, we know that that is a sandbox org. Here's the step-by-step if you want to have the detailed how-to, and then I'm going to do it with you as well. So again, creating connections are super simple. Now, make sure that in this case, this is where you're going to, once you hit connect, you're going to be prompted with a Salesforce login. You're going to use the test dash gibberish at example.com from your spin up page, and then the password. When you copy the password, I've noticed that some people will sometimes there's spaces at the end of this and they'll get too many characters. Make sure you're not getting too many characters there. So I'm just gonna go ahead and cache or copy the username here already. I'm gonna click new, and we're gonna say stuffs scratch org, and I'm gonna find Stuff's amazing folder, dun, 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 dramatic music, click sandbox. Now there's this setting here where it says custom Salesforce domain. So if your client on their orgs, if they have gone into the mine domain setting in setup and they have checked the checkbox that says block logging in through test.salesforce or login.salesforce.com, and they're forcing logging in through the my domain URL, then you need to put that my domain URL here. If you can log in through test.salesforce.com or login.salesforce.com, ignore this setting. If you put something here and it's wrong, it's just going to cause you headaches. Just leave it blank if you can log in through the regular standard login portals with Salesforce, okay? All right, so name it. Don't mark it as read-only because we're going to write data to it. Folder and flag it for sandbox. Hit connect. You're going to paste in your username from that page and go ahead and grab your amazingly simple generated password, paste it there, and click login. You're going to get a allow access. This is basically, you as your user in this org, you're authenticating the OAuth connection. So go ahead and click allow, and this should take you to the OAuth record once it's completed. There we go. So you can see we have the access token, the refresh token. If they, for some reason, refresh a sandbox, that connection is going to need to be reestablished in your org to be able to connect to it because the org ID changes and the tokens change and everything as well. Okay. All right, let's see how everybody's, excuse me, doing on. All right, perfect. So we had one existing connection, which was our control org connection, which is going to be our source, and then mine, and then 11 new ones, which matches our folder count. So great job. Thanks everybody for being attentive. This is fantastic. All right, so let's talk a little bit more, and hopefully, I'm trying to remember, let's see who asked the question. Oh, thanks. It was Thomas, thank you. Hopefully, Thomas, this little overview here will answer the question that you threw in the chat. If it doesn't, we're gonna address that question at the end, okay? So expanded Upsert capabilities, again, we support when we're looking for existing records in the destination org, like an Upsert method needs to identify the existing records, formal external IDs all day long, easy peasy. Composite external IDs, again, that can be a little bit, it's easier than actually setting up formal external IDs, but you need to identify a combination of fields. When you combine them together, they form a unique value, and on every record, those are all unique. So you don't have the same values identifying multiple records. So if like product code, product name, and is active, if I look at product A and I look at those three fields, I should only ever see product A and not get product Y, okay? Why? Because it's not good. Dun, 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 dad joke, sorry. So there's a point here, sorry. I have to entertain myself while I'm doing this too, and as well as you. So that joke was for me. I'm sorry.
We appreciate it. It's a real you're everything in one package.
Yeah, I'm the harder one to entertain too. So with composite external IDs, there's this weird bullet here. Useful when data already exists in the destination org. What on earth do we mean by that? Well, let's take a look at virtual external ID first to answer that question. Virtual external ID, again, as we are picking up the records from the source, wherever it's coming from, we have a table. Let me back up. There's a database in our cloud, and we create a table for you when you install AppOps in your control org, or so in your production org or in your client's production org. We create a table in our database based on that org ID, okay, of that control org. Then and that's where we track all the record movement. So as we pick up record A from the source, we grab the source org ID and the source record ID, org and record, we combine them together, and we check that table. And we say, okay, in this table, have we ever seen this record before? If we've never seen that record before, we will perform an automatic insert of that record. So the dangerous part about virtual external ID is if that record exists in that destination already, you have the potential of creating a duplicate. If the data exists because it was spun up as part of a sandbox refresh, so you have a full or a partial, and as part of the partial template, or because it's a full sandbox, the records spin up with it, those record IDs match. So we will check that source record ID, and we'll grab that record ID and we'll go ask the destination, do you have a record ID that matches this? If it says yes, we verify it's the same record. If it is, we update it. Problem solved. And then we mark that, hey, this record exists in this org and that's its ID. If that does exist in that org, but it was put there as part of an insert from like a data loader or another third-party tool, the challenge or the thing that can cause a problem with virtual external ID is you can create duplicates. So if you're working, as an example, maybe somebody had implemented CPQ a couple of years ago, it's now out of date. They haven't maintained it because they can't. They don't know how to use data loader and everything. So they hire you to come in, do a cleanup, and re-implement. And you've got CPQ data in a dev, in a QA, in the full, and it's all messy. And they've been trying to use data loader to push data back and forth, either successful or unsuccessful. They've been manually recreating records in all the orgs, so they'll create it in a dev and then recreate it in production. So none of the org IDs, record IDs match, right? So virtual external ID could be very detrimental in that environment unless you clean up the environment first and start seeding data fresh out of sandbox to newly refreshed sandboxes. Refresh data out of production to the sandboxes that are newly refreshed. So with that, if data's all over the place and it's kind of a mess, don't rely on virtual external ID, fall back to Composite and use that, okay? And if Composite, if you can't get unique enough, then you can always fall back to formal external ID, and that's always a surefire way to make sure your data is getting there. Hopefully that makes sense. I've got a couple of other slides. So again, composite external IDs, when you're setting them up in the dataset editor, you can actually go to an object and look at its fields, and you have the ability to denote which fields would make up a composite external ID. So this little greater than underscore here, so we're using product name, product code, the price book ID, and currency code to say, okay, every time I pick up a price book entry record, every record I'm going to look at these 4 field values. So that's great. It works great unless I have multiple records that match, and then I'll get duplicate composite external ID errors, and I might need to throw another field on. So just a little bit more kind of ignore all of the text here. Just the idea is this is kind of visually what this looks like. As I'm picking a record up, here's my record ID, my org ID. We check the entry into the database. If we've never seen this before, there will not be an entry here. So we create the entry, do an insert, pick up the new record ID, and correlate the two. So I can go now back and forth, as you can see here. I can go back and forth with these records all day long using virtual external ID, and we know where those records have come. You can add a third, a fourth, a fifth org, a sixth org, it doesn't matter, org, however many, and we will track that movement across all of those orgs. So Thomas, let me know in the chat if that answered your question, and if not, we'll make sure to address it as we go through. All right, so let's go ahead and import that price rule that you downloaded. So you should have downloaded that zip file and expanded that, expanded or extracted the JSON file out of that. So go ahead and click on the admin tab, click import, navigate out to where you saved that and select the JSON file and hold there because we're going to talk about that. All right, I'm going to do the same with you. Here's the step-by-step and here's the how-to. So we're going to click on the admin tab, click import, and we're going to navigate out to where, remember, behave when you saved, wherever you saved that. We're not looking for the zip file, we're looking for the .json file. We store all of our exported data sets. When you export a data set out of AppOps, it becomes a template. And so all templates are stored as just JSON files. So we're going to look for that JSON file. This JSON file has the instructions for, you know, what is the parent most root object, who are the parent-child relationships, and the schema mapping. Plus, are we doing an which type of upsert method, if it's virtual external ID, if it is composite external ID, it'll have all the settings that we've run through on the dataset editor. Okay, so some of you, depending on your browser settings, might be looking at a screen just like mine, where you actually see that pop-ups were blocked on this page, and all you see is a gray bar that says import successful. If you're at this spot, go ahead and click Dataset Home if you're in Lightning, or if you're in Classic, click the Dataset tab. The Dataset tab in Classic will be right here as well. And then wait for me there. If you're one of the ones that didn't have pop-ups blocked and it went forward, you should be in the Dataset editor in your dataset. Hold tight, just sit there. The rest of us will join you in just a second. So just watch here. Okay, so for those of you who ended up like me, I'm going to click the Dataset Home tab. If you are in Classic and you ended up in the Dataset tab, you're going to be in Recently Viewed, and you're going to see 5 records. You're going to see price rule, price action, summary variable, price condition, lookup query. I see a lot more because this is my org, and I've been, adding templates and different things with the trainings we've been doing. You're going to see 5 entries. So for what's really weird about our dataset tab and our our dataset home tab, we force a list view called dataset root elements. And what that's about is for every object that's included in a dataset, we have a record for it here or an element for it here. And it can get out of control. This is kind of the view where I was talking about. For every time you import data sets for a client, you're going to see these entries, and you're going to see, if you're on recently viewed or if you have an all list view for this, you're going to see every record or every object for every single data set. And as you can see here, I've got 87 entries just for what I'm seeing. I just want to see just the data set. Okay, so if you're in Classic, you have to force this list view. If you're Lightning, you can actually pin it, which is beautiful. But also, if you're in Lightning, you have this Dataset Home tab, which forces that list view. Okay. All right. Awesome. Look at this. We've already got all of you importing your data set. So again, if you had the pop-up blocked, let me expand my screen here. What you're going to do is you're going to come over here to the last modified by and created by, and you're going to find your data set and go ahead and click into it. And then you're going to be with the rest of the crew that got there via the first time. All right, next step. What we're going to do is 2 things. We're going to come in here and put your name at the front of it, space, and hit save in the top right. So just go ahead and name it, make it your data set so you know how to get back here. Second thing is the gear icon right here, just underneath the save button. There's the schema settings, folder, event, and invocations. We're going to click folder here this time and go ahead and find your folder. And then hit save. Okay, let's see how everybody's doing here. Cool. Yep, we should see folders here. Somebody imported the templates, the full templates in. Shame. No, it's okay. No worries. But this actually will get me the ability to kind of show kind of a cool feature here in just a second. So that's awesome. Yeah. So make sure Kenneth, Nicholas, Nick, go ahead and name your data sets and tag your folder in those really quick.
It looks like we have a couple questions.
Oh, do we? Okay.
What is next after importing the JSON file?
Next, after importing the JSON file, make sure if you're in the dataset editor and you're in your dataset, go ahead and put your first name in the dataset name here and hit save, and then go to the gear icon and go to the folder and add the dataset to your folder.
Okay, perfect. And then it looks like somebody was stuck at importing the JSON. Has that been resolved now? I'm keeping an eye on the question panel. And then Steph, as I'm keeping an eye on that, there's a question. I need to use Salesforce external ID for the product object. Can I use VEID for everything else?
Yes, that's the cool part, is that on a particular object, let's say that this object was the product object, I can choose standard Upsert on that, go to my object fields, and then I can start picking what field I want to be my external ID. So if you have an external ID field, formal external ID field on that product object, you just come into that object field list, find it, click the gear icon, and mark that as the external ID. For the rest of the data set, it can stay, let me go into like lookup query, even though I've flipped the price rule to standard Upsert, oh, it's getting mad at me because I didn't choose an external ID. Even though I can choose this one to be standard Upsert, and then I can leave the rest of them virtual. That's totally doable. Yep.
Perfect. And then he had one follow-on question. What considerations are needed for Pricebook and Pricebook entries to make sure all data will get migrated correctly?
I need more information on that question.
Okay.
The only thing
How about this? I will copy it, and then when we get to the questions portion later, we can dive a little deeper in.
Yeah. There's really, with AppOps, there's really no consideration, just other than we already actually have. Let me address it this way. We already actually have a data set around Pricebooks and Pricebook entries. Pricebook entries also require the product object as a required lookup. And so this data set is already pre-mapped to support that. The standard Pricebook has to be active, because if you have other Pricebooks and you try to deploy from one org to the other, all Pricebook entries have to exist in the Pricebook, the standard Pricebook data set. Susie, can you mute? I can hear you typing.
Yep, sorry, I was answering these questions.
Oh, sorry, no thanks. It's just loud. So with Pricebook and Pricebook entries all have to exist in standard Pricebook. So the standard Pricebook has to be active and exist in the destination org. So as we're bringing these over, we automatically insert them into the standard Pricebook, as well as the existing Pricebook of where they're coming from, if they're coming from other Pricebooks. Those are really the only considerations you need. But as you can see from this diagram view, it's pretty simple data set to bring that over. Okay, let me get back to where I need to be. Okay, yeah, so this is great. So let's go ahead and get into selecting the schema settings. So go ahead and open up your data set. And what you're gonna do is up in the right-hand side where we just set the folder, you're gonna select schema org. And in this time, you're gonna choose your connection. And that's going to tell, this is how you slowly manually set the schema org. So again, if you're trying to build a data set or you don't have the schema that your client has in the org that you're using AppOps in, you can tell the data set, go ahead and look at my client source org for that schema, and then you can light up the data set and see all of the relationships and everything else like that. Okay, so just to do that with you really quick, I'm going to open up my data set and click the gear icon, click schema settings. I don't have to, in this case, set the destination schema. We're just going to select the schema settings. And in this case, I know I've said normally you set it to your client source org, and in this case, we're setting it to our destination. And that's okay, because before you do a deployment, the schemas have to match between the orgs anyways, okay? So the objects that are selected and mapped in this data set, they have to exist in both orgs. So, you know, you can set it to either one, really. Okay, now I want to show you, that's the slow way. And I just undid that because I did not hit save. So always hit save. So what I want to do here is, Kahit, I think if I'm saying your name wrong, I don't know how to pronounce your name, was kind enough, and I'm not singling you out in a bad way, but actually imported another instance of our CPQ data set. So you can see here that we have, I already had them in, and then we have another version, and this is exactly what it would look like in your org with multiple people working in, you know, multiple projects. You know, you're working, Susie's working, Tori's working, and you all have your own set of data sets here. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to sort by created by here really quick, because not everybody knows this. If you know this, bear with me. But like what I want to do is I'm just going to, the reason I sorted is so I could get all of these ones together. And I'm just going to come in and flag these really quick. Let's see which one's the bottom one. There we go. All right, and then let's hit everything in between here really quick. And I actually showed somebody this the other day that didn't know it existed. I'm going to set the schema org and the local, the use schema org and the folder all at the same time for the ones that I have selected. So I'm just going to click the pencil, and I'm going to, like, let's see, let's go ahead and, interesting. Let's see, you have a folder, I see it there. There it is, it just didn't come up, okay? And then I'm going to apply all 17 to that. And then when you're using this method of mass editing these settings inside AppOps, there's two things that you have to do. So for setting the schema org here, let's go ahead and find Kahit, and sorry if I'm saying your name wrong, scratch org. But also there's this really weird, obscure use local schema. I don't know why this exists, but if I manually set what org I want to be my schema, but I don't uncheck this really obscure checkbox here, then it's always going to use the local schema irregardless. Now, if I do it via the dataset editor, this gets unchecked for you. So I'm going to uncheck this one, uncheck update 17 and apply. And just in a matter of a minute or two, I have changed all of these in and made them a part of the folder, changed the schema, and undid the use local schema. Now, the other thing that you would want to do, and there's no mass way of doing this, is you would want to open up each one of these and put the client name in the front of it, so that you can, if you end up in the dataset home tab or the dataset tab, you can identify them, and other people can identify them that it's that client, not their client. Okay, so just to show you, let's go ahead and go into that folder, And now if we say view all on all the data sets, all of those are there, plus the regular one that he imported, that they imported for the workshop. So pretty cool way to show kind of how it can get out of control a little bit, especially, I mean, we're just a small little group and we're all just importing one set of data sets. When you start importing these big out of the box solutions with all of these data sets, it can get crazy really, really fast. So a great way to keep yourself organized. In fact, for the rest of the class, if you wanted to work out of your folder, again, I did hit save. So now I can find my data set and my connection right here. So if I ever need to get back to your data set quickly, you can just go to your folder to get there. All right. I think we're ready for a quiz. Tori, are you ready for a quiz? Let's see how much everybody's been paying attention.
I am ready. There's one up right now just to see if everyone's paying attention and ready to go.
My mom always said she was too broke to pay attention.
All right, well, it looks like we're an even 50-50 actually.
Yeah,
All right,
I know.
well,
Other people are like, bring it on, yeah.
here we go. First question.
All right, the schema org is typically the blank org. Which one is it?
And Stephen, I see you're pushing these into the questions. We actually have a poll up. You should be able to click on the screen in order to select it.
Yeah, it should be the grayish blue bar, and there's a poll section, and you can expand it.
It's actually, I think it's on their screen.
It's the screen, yeah, it should be popping up.
Yeah, well, here are the results.
Okay, so this is an interesting question because it's a little bit of a trick question. All the answers can be right. There's really no wrong answer. Typically, as I've said many times, you're setting the schema org is to your client source org. It can also be your client destination org. If the control org has the schema that you're using, the schema org can just be left to the control org. If production has the schema, it can be that one. So this one is kind of like hopefully it's an aha, oh, that makes sense. As long as the org you're pointing at has the schema that's mapped in that data set, it can really be any org. Okay, let's go on to the next one.
Okay.
All right, AppOps released templates are stored as what kind of file? A .zip, .text, datasets, .json. Excuse me.
We're going to go really quickly through these guys since we're a little behind. So I'm going to close this after about 30 seconds.
Actually, I thought we were feeling, well, I feel like we were doing better than our class we did this morning. So yeah, the results here, .json file is correct. So when you're exporting out a data set, it becomes a template, and the template is stored as a JSON file. Cool, next one. You need to create multiple connections to the same org, one to act as a source and the other to act as a destination. True or false? Okay. And the answer is actually false. The same connection acts as both a source and a destination. In fact, if you tried to go into the interface and create a connection to, say, the client dev org, and you later, like a week, go back in and make another connection and you make it to the same dev org, connections have an active checkbox. So you'll actually unactivate the one and activate the new one. So you can only have one connection per org.
All right, and this is our last one for quiz 1.
Already? Wow, that went fast. Connections and data sets can be stored in a folder. I'm throwing you a bone on this one. This morning we had somebody answer it false. I think
We had a
just
rogue.
just in spite, like, I'm gonna click false, even though they knew the answer. Okay, yeah, great. Yeah, the obviously
Everyone's got
answer
the right answer.
is true. Excuse me for 1 second. Okay, sorry, I just had to cough. I apologize. All right, so in the deployment guide, if you remember at the beginning when I shared the link to that webpage that had the data set and the link to create the Scratch org, on there was the deployment guide. I told you pages 5, 6, and 7 are all you need to pay attention to. There's some really good information on the back end of that, but for the purposes of when you're doing a deployment with AppOps and you're getting ready to click go, you think you've got all your I's dotted and your T's crossed, pay attention to the 13 pre-deployment checklists. Not all of them are going to apply, but most of them you're going to want to consider and evaluate whether they apply. So make sure you have the same major versions of CPQ installed in your source and your destination. This one isn't as big of a deal now that all of the orgs are being updated by Salesforce automatically. But prior to that, or there might be a certain instance where you might opt out of automatic upgrades. And, you know, CPQ implementations, you all know better than I do how long it takes, but you might install, you know, 222 when you started it, and 224 is probably, you know, had been out for several months before you even get it done, right? And then 226 might be on the horizon. So just make sure when you're doing your deployments, you have the same major version of CPQ installed across your orgs. There can be minor versions like a dot difference, like a dot, you know, whatever, if it's 224 dot, whatever, it doesn't matter. The major schema changes in CPQ happen on major releases, and there hasn't been any major changes to the like the hardcore price rules, product options, and, you know, product objects since like version 210 was the last time we saw anything. So, but it's just been new stuff that we've had to handle. So number 2, ensure that the schemas for all your objects are deployed and exactly match the source destination. This translates, do your change sets between your source and your destination. If you have custom objects in your source that don't exist in your data in your destination and you've added them to your data set, then you need to make sure you do that change set, as well as bringing over all of your global pick list values from your source to your destination. Because the global pick list values, that's metadata. AppOps release only focuses on actual record data, so we don't bring the objects and different things across. Now, we do have a feature that will bring missing fields. So if you have fields in the source that don't exist in the destination, we can bring those across. If you have pick list values in the source that do not exist in the destination, we can bring those across for you. However, we recommend best practice, you're using your change set type tools to do that as well. This one kind of gets people because they don't believe they fall into this. And when you don't believe you fall into step 4, that's when step 4 will rear its head and bite you in the butt. And what that means is, you know, clean your data. You might early on in implementation have been configuring price rules or product rules a specific way and then realized, you know, in a meeting, oh wait, we need to do it this way and we need to add some fields. This field needs to be required. And you might have records that actually exist where those fields are not populated because they weren't required. So make sure you're getting out old data, you're getting out duplicates, both in the source and the destination, to eliminate the garbage going forward, but also just to reduce you know, any chance of duplicates going across as well. So if your source or your destination is part of the deployment is a production org, the user in the connection, when you establish the connection for that production org, it has to have a CPQ license and the CPQ admin permission set. Without it, you're not reading or writing any CPQ data in a production org. A sandbox org, you only need to have the CPQ admin permission set, but production orgs require a CPQ license in addition. That's going to be changing, I believe, in 226. 224, they're in kind of like warning us about it. 226, they're doing something different with sandbox licensing, and you might have to have a license for a sandbox too. So pay attention to those kinds of things when you're doing a deployment. Multi-currency, You wouldn't think this is another one that would get you, but it does. It'll get you because a lot of times, as part of a CPQ implementation, new ISO codes or new currencies are being added as part of the implementation. And if those are not propagated from the source to the dev to the QA and then eventually into production, you're going to get price book entry errors. Number 8 is the number one gotcha when deploying CPQ data. And deploying CPQ data, if you don't turn off the triggers in the destination, you're going to get custom field validation errors and all kinds of issues as well. Okay, so make sure you're turning off triggers before you start the deployment and then turn them back on when the deployment is done. Ensure the standard price book is active. I just talked about this because as we're bringing price book entries over, they have to live in the price book, standard price book, before they can live anywhere else. And then determine, again, ask your question. Does the data I'm deploying from the source to the destination, I'm using VEID, does it exist there by any other means than a refresh? Did they data load it? Did they recreate the records? Am I going to get duplicates? Does something need to be cleaned up here so I can use VEID? And if the answer is, oh, I can't, then fall back to the CEID version of the templates. Okay, make sure you have a connection. Import the right version of the data sets for CPQ or for any of the applications. The cool thing is because things have not changed a lot in the last little while with CPQ from a schema standpoint, we have data sets that span from 218 to 224. The 218 templates can be used on 222 and 224 as well. All right, and then if you do have to fall into CEID, make sure that the combination that we have chose in the templates or that you've chosen are unique enough. If not, you're gonna get some errors. Okay, this is where we're gonna log in to the destination org, your Scratch org. So go ahead and click launch on that page or just log in with that username and password. And you're going to pop out to, or open up setup, and go to installed packages and look for Salesforce CPQ, and you're going to click configure on that. Okay, so I'm going to do this with you as well so you know what it looks like. So in your destination org, so I'm going to go ahead and click launch in my Scratch org. And I'm just going to go full screen here. I'm going to go to setup. And search for installed and pop right down to installed packages and find Salesforce CPQ. Shouldn't be too hard because there's only 4 packages here. You're looking to click configure here. And you'll see your tabs across the top. Ignore this warning about setting up pricing calculations. This is not going to affect our class at all today. What you're looking for is additional settings, and you're looking to put a checkbox in right here, okay? So you'll put a checkbox and hit save. If it is unchecked, like, okay, I'll uncheck it and hit save, you'll just see this, and this is kind of a false positive. You look at this the first time, it says, oh, triggers, they're disabled. Oh, there's no checkbox, so there's disabled. No, it's a true or false statement. Triggers are disabled, true when there's a checkbox here. So make sure you're putting a checkbox here and then hitting save. There's no indication that you've actually successfully hit save as well. So make sure you're really clicking that save button. All right. Okay, let's deploy our data set here. So go ahead and open up your data set. Okay, Kenneth wants those steps again, I think. Luckily, Kenneth, I saw that. That was cool. I just happened to look and saw your question pop in. Yeah, so you're logging in to your org. So click launch in here and head to setup. And you're going to go to installed packages under setup. And you're going to click configure on CPQ. Okay. And you're going to click configure on CPQ. And And I totally clicked configure on advanced approvals like a noob. And additional settings, you're going to add the checkbox to triggers disabled and hit save. All right, let's deploy our data set. Let's kick it off. So you can go to your folder and find your data set. You can go to the data set home tab, wherever you want to live. And where's my data set? Oh, I'm sorted by the, it's like I can't find my name. How do I spell my name? Here we go. All right, there's mine. So I'm gonna open up mine, and then we're just gonna simply click deploy here. We're gonna click deploy. Now, the AppOps training / control org, that is default, and that's our source. So we're gonna leave this one. Don't choose anybody else's org as a source, leave it the training org, and then just scroll through and find your connection here and hit deploy. So this is where we go into bulk data load mode. The job is sent to, to Salesforce through the bulk API, and the data set is then sent to the Prodly cloud. The Prodly cloud will establish a connection between the source and the destination, and from there, it will start to pick up and move the record data from one Salesforce org to the other. As it does that, you're going to see batches pop up. We're going to see the most parent record first. In this case, we're seeing price rules start to populate here. And then we're probably going to see something like summary variable or lookup query or price action, price condition. I didn't tell which order to fire. AppOps does that on its own. So it'll figure out which object needs to come first, second, third, and fourth. So you can see here, I'm doing my price rule. Now it's doing summary variable. Summary variable is a parent object to both price action and price condition. So it's bringing over those parent records first. Price action came over because it now is free to, because these two parent relationships can be remapped to this object. And you can see here, oops, we have a problem. Okay, that's all right. We'll figure that out. Okay. We like problems because guess what? We have a troubleshooting section. That's why we have problems. And then lookup query is firing off. So I'm just going to take a look and see how everybody else is doing on their deployments. Anybody having data record failures? It doesn't look like it. Jennifer, I'm going to pick on you for no rhyme or reason. I'm just going to pick on you. Let's go take a look at your deployment plan. And I totally, like a noob, clicked the data set. Yeah.
I was going to say, I don't know if you saw Nick's question.
No.
He's asking, does a page refresh during deployment interrupt or break the deployment?
So this page here, no, it updates on its own. So it should update, but you can feel free to refresh it as well. Plus, if a page looks like it's stalled, nice segue, Nick, here, because if a page does look like it's stalled, you can go to deployment activity and just hit refresh and see the timestamp here and kind of see, okay, does it match with what my current time is here? And, does it look like things are happening? But the deployment results section of this, the bar should progress, and you should see batches progressing through. So Jennifer has some interesting errors. She has more errors than I do, which I'm really happy about, because we're going to use Jennifer's to actually troubleshoot through, so I can teach you through, because I only had one error, and Jennifer has at least two, and she's probably going to have a third one pop up here in just a minute on price condition or something like that. Okay, so here's the rule. If you end up, see, there's the last one here. So, excuse me 1 second, I'm sorry. If you end up doing a deployment and you end up with errors, in this case, where you see, okay, I have some deployment record failures here. If the green checkbox, if you have green checkboxes here, those batches completed successfully. We can dive into these batches, but which order is the best? What's the best way to attack this result? The best way to attack this result is from the bottom up, okay? The reason why is down towards the lower part of the data set or in the batch results, that's where your parents reside, okay? So the parents are typically towards the bottom. You'll see parents throughout, different parent objects, but the most root object is going to be down at the bottom, and then the next level of parents, and then the next level, and then children and grandchildren and so on. So what you're looking for, instead of starting at the top and working your way down, you're looking at the child if you start at the top, and you're looking at the problems with the child when the problems actually might be with the parents. Just like in real life, you probably know families where the parents are just not really good parents, and so you don't end up with really good children, right? That's the same thing.
The apple doesn't fall far from the tree, eh?
Not at all, especially with highly relational record data deployments. So what you're looking for here is to troubleshoot from the bottom up. Rule number 1, troubleshoot from the bottom up. Rule number 2, remember what object is throwing the error. In this case, it's the price rule object that is throwing the error. There are times where it may reference the error message, and we'll look at the error message here in just a second. The error message may actually reference another object or a field that has the name of another object, and suddenly you get your Sherlock Holmes hat and your monocle out, and you're running all over Salesforce, your org, trying to fix an error on another object when it's actually a record failed on this object, not another object. So pay attention. A, troubleshoot from the bottom up. B, remember which object threw the error. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click View Results on the batch that had the issue. And we're going to see a record result for every single batch we're going to see a batch, and in that is a record result for every record we deployed, and we're going to see an error message. In this case, we see field custom validation exception. No condition can currently be used with custom condition. So this is a field validation and a custom condition error. Here, I was successful on 6 out of 7 records, only 1 of them failed. That's the way the tool works. It's just like a data loader. You're going to have so many that were successful, and you're going to have error messages that you've seen with a data loader. So remember that as well. Now, rule number 3, AppOps did not generate this error. This is not our error message. This is the destination org telling you why it cannot accept this record. It denied it, it did not accept it, or it did not get created or updated. So the URL is empty here and the error message is there. This error message is directly related to this record, which belongs to the price rule object, okay? So if you can remember those when you get in your own deployment and you're kind of, Friday night and everybody's gone home and you're, doing a push and you start to see issues, remembering those 3 things will help you determine what exactly this error might mean. I'm going to throw you a bone on this one. If you see, when you're deploying any CPQ data, if you see field custom validation exception errors, that means the triggers were left on in the destination org. So let's go take a look at the destination. And so Jennifer, you did point it to your Scratch org, but you may not have hit save on the triggers disabled. So just as an exercise to solve this, in fact, let's go take a look at the next batch. Sorry, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. Let's go take a look at the next batch. The next batch, we're gonna go down and we see invalid cross-reference. Oh, there's more field custom validation. So again, this is a key indicator that, again, the triggers are left on. And I don't even need to go look at this one because I've determined all the way down here what the problem is. However, if you see multiples, it's always good just to click a view result and look, because some of the errors might be due to cascading. Because again, if I have failures on a parent, I'm going to have cascading failure errors because the parent IDs can't be remapped, right? So if it's a required parent ID, the record's going to be rejected because the lookup's missing, okay? So make sure you're checking them. You just, I would, again, start at the bottom, work your way up, solve a couple, and be like, okay, great, I've solved those, then check a couple more. Oh, those are related, it's cascading. And that's why we start from the bottom up, is because we want to, if we can solve it with the first one and solve all the rest are cascading, you're going to speed up your deployment times and your troubleshooting a ton, okay? So Jennifer, go ahead. What I'd like you to do, if you want, you don't have to, get into your Scratch org and make sure, see, and I did the same thing, actually. I went in and I pretended that I clicked this, like if I hit my refresh, my triggers are really not disabled, because I wanted to throw errors, but I just happened to randomly come up on yours, and you had left yours disabled too, so I was able to use yours because yours looked better. Your errors looked better than my errors, so that's why I used yours. So yeah, just get into your destination org, click triggers disabled, and then the cool thing about that is you can get right in and just hit rerun at the top.
Steph, she's saying that her triggers were disabled.
Triggers are disabled. I put $5 on the table right now. No, just kidding. Yeah, yeah. Did you click that link twice, Jennifer? And did you get 2 orgs and you're disabling the wrong, maybe you're disabling a different org, or maybe? I don't know. Like, this is synonymous. Like, these are the exact errors I got with my org this morning when I left my triggers turned on, and all the time when I do my demos and trainings. So we can take a look at it at the end because we'll have some time at the end, Jennifer. Okay, let's take a look at, so some other things I want to talk about is some troubleshooting here. So make sure, so in the deployment, Jennifer is asking how to redeploy. Let me get to the right tab off screen here. So in the results, I just opened up somebody else's results here, but in the results, there'll be a rerun button right here in the top. And you can just rerun right there. Or you can go right back to your folder, open up the data set, hit deploy again if you'd like to as well. Okay. So troubleshooting deployments, we saw the source URL, the destination URL in those batch results. That's a great way to open up the source on one screen, open up the destination on the other screen, and verify, did the fields come over? Are the records still related? Are the related values correct? So you can do a little bit of smoke testing and troubleshooting that way. We have a knowledge-based search on our success portal, where you can get in and, you've got problems, you can search for it on a knowledge base. Our success portal also has a web to case. You can always email support@prodly.co and get some help from that. You can messed up. You can monitor bulk data load jobs both in the source and the destination. If a job looks like it is stuck, then you have the ability to go in and go to the source org, go to help, go to setup, sorry, and search the word bulk in the quick find, and that will take you to the bulk data load jobs. The bulk data load jobs is going to show you every batch API process that's happening, and you can look both in the source and the destination to see, is this really, is what's happening is related? Do I see anything going on? Because again, some data sets can take a long time, and you may worry that they're stuck. And maybe they're not, they're just processing, because we're reading and writing. Plus you can always look at the activity log inside the deployment results and do a timestamp check on that. If you happen to use composite external IDs and you're getting duplicate composite external ID errors, you just might have to validate the uniqueness of that. You can always use developer console, query the source, query the target, do a record count. Does everything look hunky-dory that way? I have 500 products in my source. I should have 500 products in my destination. and you could use Workbench or something to that effect to query both those orgs. Okay. All right, and then let's see, most errors is, oh yeah, so most errors you're going to see are similar to the errors that are in our data loader. I've already talked about this point, and you just might need to adjust the data set. There's times where you might have a missing lookup or a missing required lookup. It needs to be added. It could be that the data in the source is just a little bit out of whack. Maybe there's a required field that somehow isn't filled in, and that needs to be filled in. You might need to clean up your data a little bit. Sometimes it's a different trigger or workflow rule or something in the destination org that's firing, keeping the data off. So just pay attention. Again, if you're thinking about what object is throwing the error, troubleshoot from the bottom up, and what the error message is saying, you should be able to figure out which one is causing the issues. Okay, Tori, what do you think? Do we have time for quiz number 2, or should we move on? We're getting really close to time.
I think it's really quick. It's only about 5 questions. So why don't we see if they're ready?
Yeah, let's do it. Nice.
Oh, a lot of people are going to ace this. That's good.
That's right, they are.
All right, I'm going to close that really quick, show those results, and we're going to move on. Here's your first question.
All right. Only beginners should use the pre-deployment checklist. Is that true or false? Only CPQ beginners. That's false. Yeah, and the reason why, like seriously, I've been helping, I've done hundreds of deployments with partners and customers over the last several years, and not more than like 5-6 months ago, I was helping our CPQ admin here do a deployment, and we couldn't get it to freaking work. It was erring out, erring out, erring out. And what did we not pay attention to? We were deploying to our production org, and the user in the connection was our CTO, Daniel. It was his user in the connection to production. He didn't have a CPQ license, so we did not have permission to read or write. So we didn't even use our own checklist when we were deploying our own CPQ data. And I was just like, oh, epic failure. It was awesome. All right, leaving the CPQ triggers on in the destination during deployment could cause some record failures during the deployment. True or false? Dun, dun, dun. Who said false?
Someone's just going against the grain here.
Somebody is like, yeah, I've been listening to you for 2 hours. We're done. Yeah, the answer is true there on that one. All right, for errors with CEID, check the blank of your composite external IDs: uniqueness, status, target, source. All right. So the answer is uniqueness. Yeah, so if you've picked a combination of fields to mark it as unique, and the destination org is saying, hey, I've got more than one that looks just like this, and it doesn't know which one to update, it will error out. So you might need to get a little bit more unique, add another field. And if you can't get unique enough, fall back to formal external ID, or clean up org so you can use virtual external ID.
I got 2 more. This is second to last.
What is the recommended order for troubleshooting your record results? Start at the top and work your way down. It doesn't matter. You can start troubleshooting anywhere. Start at the bottom of the results, work your way up. Trick question, AppOps doesn't even err out on anything.
When I read that last one, I kept thinking of like Dwight from The Office. Like, false.
Yeah, bottom, work your way up. We'd like to say that AppOps doesn't ever err out on anything, but we can't control how your destination org is configured.
All right, last question.
Most errors are similar to the errors you would see using a spreadsheet, a data loader, an Upsert, or I cannot talk, Bulk
data
data,
load job.
bulk data load jobs. Perfect. Yeah, data loader. It uses the same process. It's all batch API, and we're doing in, upserts just like data loader does. So what succeeds, succeeds, what fails, fails, and the error messages are coming just from the destination org, just like with data loader. Awesome. Okay, we had some other things planned where I was there's one other concept I want to talk about, or two things really quick. And thanks, Tori, for that. So our Prodly toolkits, we have 5 of them officially. And as interesting enough, as we were on this workshop, one of our customer success specialists was slacking me, and he has been working with one of our customers to develop out Conga, and they were willing to share. So we look like we might have some official Conga templates coming out soon, which will be really nice. But we have the whole quote to cash, so billing, CPQ, and advanced approvals. I just don't have a advanced approval cloud here. B2B commerce, as well as field service lightning. Now, those are the out of the box experiences. I've helped people develop data sets that are internal to their org for multiple, at least close to half a dozen customers on Aptus CPQ, as well as Conga and Conga Composer and Conga Orchestrator. Is that the right term, Susie?
Orchestrate, we're working on,
Orchestrate.
and contracts for Salesforce as
Yeah.
well.
So I've helped people do those. I've helped Financial Force, a bunch of others, right? And so it's not just exclusive to our out-of-the-box toolkits. I've helped people develop data sets for custom applications where they have built their own in-house low-code, no-code application that they've installed in their own org that stores reference data as record data. We've developed data sets for them. Seeding sandboxes, merging orgs, transformations, all that fun stuff. So it's not just for this. We support the platform as a whole, Salesforce as a whole. However, the cool out-of-the-box toolkit experience, we live in this space today, and we're going to be growing that throughout the rest of this year and next year as well. So I wanted to talk really quick about, where are the toolkits hosted? Pay me $5 and I'll tell you. No, they're in our success portal. I'm going to show you that here in just a quick second. But all of those can be downloaded. And then Kenneth asked, anything for attachments? Yes, we do support attachments. You just add the attachment object as a child of the main object. So if you go to accounts and want to attach those, just click attachments there. So deployment plans. Let's talk really quick about deployment plans. So deployment plans are a set of instructions that you can give AppOps, a set of instructions. You can lay out steps. Deployment plan have steps. Steps have data sets. So I have the capability of telling AppOps release which steps I would like to go first by putting the data set in there. So in this case, I have the price book, the product, the price rules, the product rules, the quote templates. Let me expand all of this. And then, all the other CPQ data sets here as well. So I can control the order and the flow. And that's because with CPQ, if I'm going into an org that doesn't have any CPQ data, I need to get the price books and price book entries there first, and then the products with the options second. And then I can really control, it doesn't matter which order I go after that. Again, steps run sequentially, so step 2 will not run before step 1 goes or is done. And so again, this is a great way to just kind of lay out a set of automated instructions for us to just run through everything. If I click deploy on this here, and I'm just going to show you, I'm not going to run it, but I can choose which deployment plan I would like to run. We click next. I choose my source, click my destination, and I hit go, and I walk away. So I would deploy the entirety CPQ configuration right here, right now, while I'm working on something else, catching my commute home. I can hand this task off to a junior Salesforce administrator versus having my data architect level person do this via data loader. This deployment plan on a typical deployment runs in about 90 minutes. the full CPQ configuration. If you've ever done this by hand, you know it takes days to do this, and you're not happy showering, eating, nothing while that's happening, right? Okay. All right, Susie, Tori, back to you.
Okay, should we get back on camera for this?
Why not?
I will.
There we go.
Oh, we got a little glare. All right, so this one right here. So for you guys who really enjoyed this or you're looking for some more information, we've got a lot of educational webinars, and specifically what we like to do is be this thought leader. So one of our webinars coming up on April 7th at 10 a.m. Pacific is going to be our Agile Release Management webinar, and this is our best practices around release management. So Stephen Crane is our subject matter expert here. We got him, I forget where he previously worked, but he has ran several product development teams, and he knows this stuff like the back of his hand. He's been asked to do this presentation at some upcoming virtual summits as well, so we know that it's a popular topic. So if you'd like to join that, we'll send you the link. And then we also have a CPQ Gotchas and Best Practices with Derek Black, and this is a presentation that he gave at Dreamforce. So he's going to give some tips and tricks, really go around implementing to maintaining to planning, whatever your CPQ needs are. This is a really good one to register for as well, and that's going to be April 21st at 10 a.m. Pacific. All of these will be recorded, so if you do want to come and unfortunately you can't make it due to another meeting or some other conflict, go ahead and register for it. If you don't make it, we're still going to send you that recording link, so you're going to be good either way. Can we move on to the next slide?
Oh, yeah.
So one thing that we hold really, that we really appreciate and what we hold a lot of value in is our customer reviews. So if you do want to go out there, see what customers are saying, review us yourself, you can go to G2 or AppExchange. We love AppExchange reviews. And Susie's actually got a little bit of an extra incentive for you guys here on the call today, so I'll let her go through that.
Yeah, we've got a little treat. As a thank you for spending time with us today, getting your hands on the product, getting to kind of learn how AppOps release works. If you go and put a review on the AppExchange and we see that you've done that and we're in attendance here, we will email you a little Amazon gift card as a thank you. So I'm excited that we get to offer that. Thanks, Tori. And then, yeah, so it looks like pretty much everybody here is working for a company that is already a contracted partner of ours. So first and foremost, thank you. That means that in your follow-up email, you will be getting instructions on how to access our customer and partner community. That way, as you prepare for client deployments, you can sign up for success programs to get a little deeper into specific examples of what your clients are looking for. You'll be getting from now on our monthly newsletter, which I keep as short as possible, chock full of information on upcoming sessions, like on our new product AppOps test. And if you do want to refer, if you have a client that you think would be a good fit for AppOps release, you can email us at partners@prodly.co. That will be included in the follow-up email also. And finally, we seeded some questions here. Please feel free to ask any questions that you have. Thomas, if you are able to hang tight, we will get to your question here in a moment. If there are any other quick questions, though, feel free to put that into the question panel now. It looks like did you answer Rachel's question stuff? How do we extract data from the source org to get the JSON file?
I didn't. I was about to, and then I got in trouble for not advancing the slide. So
Sorry.
yeah, the answer to that is you don't. AppOps doesn't do that, or release doesn't do that. So to what you're looking to do, if you're looking to create a template, you in the dataset editor, when you have the dataset open, you would click the drop down next to, like, save and cancel, and there's a create a template from that, and that will create a template record that you can download out of the the deployment templates tab. I think it's been changed, the name of it, and that just downloads the schema or the mapping and the settings of the data set. AppOps release only deploys record data from one Salesforce org to another. It doesn't have the ability to extract data out and like save data locally or to any other source. We are working on version control where you'll be able to actually check data into like a GitHub repository coming later this year that we talked about earlier. And that will now add, at least in their source to destination type for data. But we don't, based on the way you're asking the question, you're not extracting data from JSON files, even though they're more than capable of doing that. So I hope that answers your question.
Perfect. So Thomas's question, well, first and foremost, we're up at a minute before closing. So we will go to the thank you slide so that you can see that Stuff is multi-talented and also knows how to make guacamole. Oh no, he won't do it. We made a GIF of him making guacamole during our sales kickoff. He's
I can't believe you guys did this again.
Bursting with confidence here, as you can see. But yes, if you need to drop now that we are at the end time, feel free to do so. Kit, I'm not sure how to pronounce your name, and I apologize because I know Steph was struggling with this earlier. We can get to your question and Thomas's question right now. So if anybody wants to hang around, feel free to do so. Oh, Thomas left. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh no, it looks like he's here.
It said
There's
he
a
left.
Thomas Wartick here. Yeah.
Yeah, he's still on.
Yeah, geez.
Well, I'm just going by what the thing.
Okay,
that's
so these are both Kit and Thomas's questions were about VEID. So Kit asked, what considerations are needed for pricebook and pricebook entries to make sure all data will get migrated correctly? Thomas's,
which I covered that one,
is a little more specific. Yeah.
Yeah. So let me read it. Let me know if this is. If this isn't the correct time question. Oh, it's not the right time. Okay, just kidding. But since we're talking about VT.
Oh no, it looks like he has dropped now.
Yeah, what did I say?
I know, you were right. Well, we will follow up with that one via email then. If there are any other questions, we are here to support you. You'll get all sorts of info in the follow-up email. So that one is a valuable one to keep an eye out for. It's not just fluff. But yes, thank you everyone. Thanks for your time. Thanks for your participation. And we look forward to working with you soon.
Have a good day, everyone.
Everybody.
Thanks.